spokeswoman said the process of reinstating a license could take months, even years. Benzylpiperazine, also known as BZP, is a Schedule 1 penalty 2 drug, meaning it's in the same category as methamphetamine and ecstasy. It was found in a sample of these bath salts. If you do see sand on those overpasses and on those surfaces, he says please drive carefully and don't brake suddenly. It could cause some accidents. This stretch of road is where James Byrd Jr. was dragged to his death. It's a painful reminder even 12 years later. Bill White has actually conceded, meaning that Governor Perry is going to take office yet again for his third term. What does that mean for your party? There were not many dry eyes in the courtroom when the judge announced the sentence, and family members got a chance to confront Dennis Sattler in court. The city of Nederland also banned K2 and bath salts just recently, and the chief of police vows to continue the crackdown. Is the system tough enough? Are victims and their families getting the justice they deserve? Is the crime looked at as just a DWI? We'll let you decide. Tonight you will hear from an offender's family and from a victim. You'll learn how drinking and driving has impacted the lives of both in similar ways. The wind softly blows on a spring morning, the twinkling of chimes ringing in the air. The soft breeze brushes its hand through the flowers.
Her love was for cheerleading.
And a doting mother talks about her 19-year-old daughter while she visits her gravesite.
She liked to make people laugh.
A laugh Kathy Hernandez can only hear in her memories. 4 years ago, her daughter Casey died in a drunk driving accident.
It's that one phone call that every parent dreads. You're not supposed to bury your children.
Kathy Hernandez buried Casey. She describes her daughter as an outstanding student, a child who always followed the rules. Rules didn't help Casey April 29, 2007. She was the one who was drinking and driving.
I think more people should step up. You know, like you said, I'm the only one that I know of that's out there saying, you know, yes, my daughter, she, you know, was drinking and she was driving, and I can't change that, and it breaks my heart to have to tell people that, but trying to make something good, you know, so maybe she didn't just die for nothing. Because of drinking and driving, Casey's family now must visit her at her gravesite, but the accident also forever changed the life of a young man.
It was, say, 1:20 in the morning when the actual wreck happened. I just basically woke up in a nightmare.
A nightmare Danny Simeon is living each and every day.
I broke 6 left ribs, tore my main veins in my heart, my aorta, broke both thigh bones, shattered both knees, shattered both ankles, and now I have metal in both ankles, I have metal in both knees, metal in both thigh bones, and an iron rod with a ladder, however you say, going up and down my spine with like 20 screws in it.
Danny's injuries on that early April morning 4 years ago left him paralyzed from the waist down. He was just a teen then. Now he's a young man.
I tried to end my life a couple of times over this.
A young man who will be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, not because of anything he did, but because he was the victim of a drunk driver.
I didn't accept myself. You know, this wasn't the way I was. You know, I wasn't born like this.
Danny Simeon and Kathy Hernandez have something in common. Kathy's daughter, Casey, was the drunk driver who hit Danny and forever changed his life.
Don't drink and drive. That's the main thing. Because, I mean, if it's not only your life that's in danger, you know, because if it was, then, you know, I wouldn't have been injured.
Once you've gotten behind that wheel and you're down the road, nobody's going to help you after that. You're on your own, and you will have consequences to face.
Couldn't move my lower body.
Danny wants his life, his injuries, his tragedy to have meaning for others.
Somebody else's decision.
Kathy wasn't there this night, but she almost always is, and that's rare. They know their story together is a powerful one to tell, and hope it can save at least one life. Danny knows how one person's mistake is another person's nightmare.
I don't hate the mother, I don't hate Casey, I don't hate, in the beginning, I was mad. I mean, who wouldn't be mad, But as time grew and I had to realize, it's the thing is, you forgive, but, you don't have to forget.
Forgiveness for a mother who lives with a constant reminder her daughter isn't coming back. And a 22-year-old man with hopes and dreams who will now spend the rest of his life like this. Danny and Kathy speak several times a month for MAD at meetings that allow victims to tell their stories to people charged with DWI. Casey was an organ donor and saved the lives of 6 people. She also gave the gift of sight to 1 person. Tomorrow at 6, we explore DWI from the standpoint of the court system. We examine how the district attorney and a judge feel about the laws and if probation is enough to stop people from making the same mistake twice. Reporting live in the studio, Lindsey, KFDM 6 News. A cross marks the spot where a young mother lost her life.
I just started crying because there was her cross, at the roadside.
A road Allison Neal Clark's mother, Sharon, travels often.
She's always in my mind.
And in the thoughts of her 2 girls, now 2 and 4.
She just had it in her little mind that her mother was going to be there for Mother's Day.
Allison was there for her 4-year-old daughter, Cadence, to the end.
I'm like, baby, your mama's in heaven, and when you go to heaven, you don't come back. Mama, she's going to be there.
It's been almost a year since Allison Neal Clark's murder. Her family struggles to move on, and her 2 children must come here to visit their mom. Sharon feels a responsibility to keep Allison's memory alive for her children.
I talk about her all the time. They may be doing something, or I may be doing something with them and say, remember how your mama used to do this? Or, your mama used to always do this.
The unsolved murder of Allison weighs on the family. They're eager for answers.
I think if I would have closure, I could go on. Sometimes I think to myself, I want my life to be like it was. I can deal with Allison not being here, but it's just not fair that somebody's out there roaming the streets that did this to her, because she didn't deserve it.
The pain of what happened to Allison is only now beginning to slightly ease for her family 1 year later.
Worst year of my life.
A terrible year because of what happened on this road, where a cross serves as a constant reminder of Allison Neal Clark. In Mid-County, Lindsey, KFDM 6 News. We first told you about the problem months ago, and it's a story that is becoming more common by the day. Tonight, we bring you a special report on a man's life cut short. His family says within a month, the bottom dropped out. He lost his job and became paranoid, then shot himself on March 28th at the family's home in Buna. They say he was smoking K2 and snorting bath salts, a fatal addiction they want others to know about, even though it is painful for relatives to tell the story. Laughter fills the air as these kids enjoy an afternoon jumping on the trampoline.
We were just a real close family.
The Kirkue family described themselves as tight-knit, often enjoying barbecues together. March 28, 2011 is the day everything changed, the day this family knew its life would never be the same.
We had went into the front room, and I noticed he had, the rifle with him, and he had told me he just couldn't take anything anymore. He had told his children to go to their room and told me he couldn't take it and took his own life.
I had talked to him like 20 minutes before, and he seemed fine.
Amber was married to Richard Kirkue. His parents are Rebecca and Richard. They all started recognizing strange behavior in him after he began smoking K2 and snorting bath salts.
He was hallucinating a little. He was just saying odd things that didn't make sense. And
Paranoid about everything.
The Kirkues say they watched Richard change, deteriorate, and within weeks, they didn't even recognize the person he had become.
Very fast. He became someone different very fast. Within 2 weeks, he was not the same.
Lost so much weight, too. Really? He was a stout young man. A stout and real powerful young man. And he just withered to nothing that quick.
That quick, dramatic change is a story playing out every day, week, and month across the nation. Here are some numbers that tell the story. The American Association of Poison Control says in just the first 4 months of this year, it's received more than 1,700 calls about bath salts. That's up from only 302 calls last year. Poison Control had more than 2,800 calls in 2010 about K2 and already has had more than 1,600 calls in 2011.
It's not meant for humans. I mean, it'll kill you.
Family members of Kirkue say it killed him. Killed a man who never had a drug problem in the past. A man who was a dedicated Marine, the type of person you'd never expect would see his life spiral downward and fall apart.
It'll take the person you love and it will destroy them. I mean, it makes them somebody they're not. I mean, I had a perfectly good husband and father, and it turned him into somebody that took, you know, that now I no longer have.
A life cut short. Kids that will never grow up with a father. A wife who will never again see her husband. Parents that had to bury their own child.
We love him very much. We miss him so badly. We just want him back. We just want him back.
While they long for the impossible, they fight to make sure Richard Kirkue's life had meaning for themselves and others.
To watch children, watch them closely. If they start acting funny, something's going on. I will continue talking about it and telling people about it until something's done.
Something they say needs to be done because
it can happen to anybody.
Richard Kirkue's autopsy is pending. K2 and bath salts are gaining national attention. Nationally known Dr. Oz wrote an article about them in this month's Time magazine. The Texas legislature recently passed a bill banning K2 and substances like it. Many cities, including Jasper, Kirbyville, and Port Arthur, have banned the sale and consumption of K2. A bill to outlaw bath salt is moving through the legislature, and local law enforcement agencies are hoping it will pass in this session. Nederland is the first city in southeast Texas, to our knowledge, that has approved a law banning bath salts. It did so this week. To find out more about these substances, log on to our website, kfdm.com. Reporting live in the studio, Lindsey Kovacevic, KFDM 6 News.
6 News reporter Lindsey Kovacevic was at both locations beginning early this morning until late in the afternoon. She joins us now with details. Lindsey.
Bill, a person who lives on East Bolivar Street in Vidor told us he saw federal agents use a battering ram to knock down the door of a home at about 7:30 this morning. When we got to the home on East Bolivar, we saw about a dozen FBI and ATF agents searching carefully in and around the property. We saw them putting items into red plastic containers, but we don't know what they took nor what they are investigating, and they weren't talking. Several unmarked SUVs, vans, and unmarked trailers were parked at the scene. A neighbor who lives behind the home told us a couple with a little girl lives there. It's important to note we did not see anyone arrested, and federal agents are not saying whether anyone here is a target of the operation. A woman who lives in the area told us it's surprising to see federal agents swarming her neighborhood.
Very unusual. Have never had anything like that happen, to my knowledge, even in Vidor, to my knowledge, but most certainly not on this street. And it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what's going on, and if whatever's going on is going to affect any of the neighbors to where they're unsafe.
The operation included a second home on Crosby Street off Farm Road 105, about 4 miles north of Vidor. At this location, we saw federal agents with a lot of firepower, including a tan armored military vehicle, and agents dressed in green talking outside a home at the end of the road. Agents driving SUVs were pulling unmarked white trailers down the road. Neighbors here told us the FBI SWAT team was staked out at the home on Crosby earlier this morning. Federal agents wouldn't tell us what they are looking for, and again, it's important to note that we do not have any information that people who live at either home are subjects of an investigation. A spokeswoman for the FBI told us the search warrants are sealed, and until they are opened, details of the investigation won't be released.